Welcome back, folks. Philly's #1 college radio station, WHIP. I know a lot of fans are agitated about Temple pretty much losing their identity as the Big East. It goes right to the Catholic 7. We'll get to that in just a little bit. We'll have you sound off 215-204-9449. But what we got to do right now is talk a little hockey as the Flyers are in action tonight. They're playing at the world's most famous arena going up against the New York Rangers. And there's no better person in the league to talk Rangers hockey with than Joe Micheletti, color analyst for the New York Rangers on MSG. And he joins us right now. Joe, it's your buddy Zach Gelb here. How are you?
Jack, doing great, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for coming on. And I know you were a little bit annoyed with what happened in that game the other night. Coletta just went out there, and that is a dirty play. It serves off a 5-game suspension. Do you think that was a fair job that what came out of this whole result?
No, I really don't. I thought right off the top that this was and should have been a suspension that goes beyond the single digits. I think it's a play in this great game that a lot of us have been associated with for so long that needs to be eliminated. I think this should be a separate category for hits of that nature. And I don't think the league they're bad people. And sometimes I'm sure I don't understand all the inner workings of the league, and I'm sure there would have been the Players Association would have been involved in. Had it been a longer suspension. But I will say this. The owners, there's none of the owners that like to hit. None of the players like to hit. None of the officials like to hit. None of the fans like to hit. None of the broadcasters like to hit. Everyone thinks it should be eliminated from the game, and for that to be a 5-game suspension, I think is a huge mistake.
I agree with you, no doubt about it. And Richards is lucky that he didn't break his neck. And that's one of the most dangerous plays in hockey. You said that on the broadcast the other night when the Rangers beat the Buffalo Sabres. And we've seen this happen in sports over the years. The NFL, people are saying, are they ruining the integrity of the game by going out there and protecting these players and making it more safe? You have the same kind of argument with hockey. And then here in Philadelphia, Harry Zolnocek, he said this the other day about his suspension where he left his skate and just decked a player on the ice. Quote, you can say years ago maybe it wasn't a penalty, but right now that is what we're calling, close quotes. How much do you think the game has changed over the years in trying to protect these kind of players?
Well, here's the problem. I think Zolnocek's suspension should have been longer as well. I don't agree with him when he says that years ago wouldn't have been a penalty. Years ago, you didn't see those types of hits. I mean, the game has changed. I mean, anybody that says that the old phrase is it's a hockey play is that's Neanderthal thinking, because the league decided that they were going to take the policing of the game away from the players and it was going to and bring it into their own hands to make the decisions about those types of things. They also decided that they wanted a faster game, and the game has been better without all the hooking and holding. The problem is that there are harder hits in the game. I mean, as a defenseman back, and I played in those old days, you used to be able to protect your partner by slowing down the forechecker. But now they don't do that anymore, and these players are flying in. That's why you're seeing some of these big hits. If you want that, fine. Don't leave your feet, and target the head. Stay down, hit with the shoulder, and players that are in a vulnerable position, like Brad Richards was the other night, you can't make that type of play, and that's why I think it's too bad that it's only 5 games. It should be more.
Shanahan has one of the most rigorous jobs in hockey, and he got killed last year during the playoffs when he suspended some Rangers players, and you had some other things as well. Great the job that Shanahan has done. Are you a fan of him, or do you think that he needs to improve what he's doing?
I'm a fan of Brendan as a person. I'm a fan of Brendan as a player. I think that he's got a tremendous amount of pressure on him. He can't win, basically. He's got one of those positions where he cannot win no matter what he does. It's either too lengthy of a suspension or not long enough, or he shouldn't have been suspended, or he should have been suspended. You simply can't win depending on the court of public opinion. So he's got a difficult job. I just happen to look at this not strictly as the NHL. I think that what we see in the NHL permeates down to the lower levels. So when I see a play like Brad Richards getting hit from behind and going headfirst into the boards, and thank God he turned his head just at the right moment, because he might have been paralyzed or even worse had he not just turned his head. So he's lucky that he was eventually able to get back up. But I look at it this way. If you are a mother and dad and you're sitting at home with your 7-year-old son or daughter, and they're saying, boy, I'd really like to play hockey, Mom and Dad, and then Mom and Dad and all of them see that type of play on Brad Richards, and the parents look at each other and they go, oh, my God, do we want our kids to be subject to that type of thing, that type of play? And it's too bad, because hockey is such a spectacular sport, the best sport in the world in my eyes. But those types of things need to be eliminated from the game. And I think when you're a parent and you're watching this, you sometimes start thinking about maybe golf or tennis or something else that's not that type of a contact sport. That is that dirty of a play that doesn't get cleaned up, and that's what bothers me.
Joe Micheletti joins us. Rangers take on the Flyers tonight in Madison Square Garden, the world's most famous arena. And, Joe, I like how the NHL is truthful with their fans, and they go out there and they show you, they take you through with the whole video production online of why the player was suspended. But the one thing that always agitates me is when they go out there and they say, well, Richards did return to the game, and that factors into the length of the suspension. If Richards didn't return to this game, how many games do you believe Coletta would have gotten?
That's a really difficult question to answer, and I happen to agree with you. I don't think that because the player gets back up, that should have an effect on how dirty the hit was and what could have happened. As I mentioned, he got back up, but had he not turned his head, he may never have gotten back up. So I don't think that should be a determining factor. In the results shouldn't determine the act, and that's the problem I have. It should be the act itself, and if the player is lucky enough to not get hurt seriously, then that's the bonus. Because one of these days it's going to happen, and we're all going to say, see, if we would have been tougher and tried to eliminate that, over the course of the last number of years, then maybe we wouldn't have this dire situation that's going to happen. And I think that's unfortunately what's going to happen at some point in time.
What do you think the health is right now of Brad Richards?
He did not skate yesterday. He was extremely sore from what I understand. He did go out and skate today. The morning skate was on the ice for about 10 minutes or so. And I believe he's going to play tonight, but I'm not totally sure.
Wow, he's tough, because I'll tell you this, I thought he was going to be out for a while once you saw him go down there, and like you mentioned, he's very lucky that he turned his head, because when I saw that, you really were concerned for his neck, and you would thought that maybe he did break it, but you see this Rangers team, they've struggled out of the gate, they're starting to play a little bit better, but what do you think it's going to take for this team to turn things around, because many people thought that this would be a team that would be number one in the East this year?
Yeah, stay healthy, I think, more than anything, Zach. A couple of games ago, they were able to get Rick Nash back in the lineup after missing 4 games, and he's been their best player all season. They were also able to get 2 defensemen back. It's not a team that has a tremendous amount of depth, so injuries really had an effect on this team. And I don't really need to be telling you and the Philadelphia fans about injuries.
That's true.
They know all about that and how it affects their team. So I think more than anything for the Rangers, first of all, be healthy. And second of all, they need to start getting better performances out of the players that they expected to be their best players. And one of those is Brad Richards. He was been off to a slow start getting his game back together. He's been better lately. He needs to continue to improve. Marian Gaborik needs to start scoring more goals. He has 7 on the season, but all 7 of those have come in 4 games. And so if they can get Gaborik with more production, Richards playing at a higher level, they've got Lundqvist, who's a great goaltender, and I think overall it's a good team again, and they should be able to get into the playoffs, but they've got to stay healthy.
In the offseason, you saw Anisimov leave, you saw Dubinsky leave, they brought in Nash, I should say, and then they only really had 1 week to kind of put it together in this training camp. You know this team better than most. Where's the chemistry of this team at right now?
It's getting there. I would say more than anything. It's a different dynamic than it was a year ago, Zach. it was not only Anisimov and Dubinsky that they lost in the Nash trade, but they also lost Ruslan Fedotenko, who signed with the Flyers. He was a excuse me, a key penalty killer for them. They also lost another key guy in Brandon Prust, who really hit the jackpot going to Montreal, and good for him. But he was a real important player, even though he only played about 12 minutes, but he killed penalties. We know about his toughness and standing up for everybody, and so they lost him as well. And so there's 5 or 6 guys that left and 5 or 6 new ones that came in, and it's just taken a while. And again, it's not the same type of team. They knew that they needed to get more scoring, and that's why they went out and got Rick Nash. But it changes the dynamic of the team somewhat, and they're still trying to figure that out as a group.
Prust was one of those secondary leaders, and we all know that Callahan is the leader of this team, but taking away the captains and the assistant captains, who do you believe is the leader of this Rangers team right now, like a guy that Brandon Prust served in that role last year?
I'm not sure that anybody has been able to take over the role that Brandon Prust provided for this team. He's just such a unique player in that regard, in that he'll stand up for anyone. You saw him the other night against the Boston Bruins, drop the gloves with Milan Lucic. So he's not a big guy. He's only about 190 pounds, but he's just will fight anybody if that's what it takes to try and turn a game around or to stick up for a teammate. And those are unique skills. And then you add to that the fact that he can play a regular shift. He can kill penalties. You can throw him out on the power play. Those are unique talents that are tough to find. So I would say that his role has not been taken over by anyone.
Joe Micheletti joins us, Philly's #1 college radio station, WHIP. Zach Gelb here with you for Temple Sports Hour. Joe, a few more questions right before we let you run, and we appreciate you coming on today. This Flyers team, I've seen them a few times in person at the Wells Fargo Center, and when they're at their best, it's when Brizgalov is on top of his game, and he's made a big-time improvement this year. But the 2 players that stand out to me, and we all know Giroux is one of them, but behind Giroux, it is Voracek and Simmons. Those guys know how to do some of that dirty work, get down low, right in front of the net, get the rebounds, and put them in the net. What stands out to you so far this season about this Flyers team?
Well, those are excellent choices right there. Simmons I've always liked since he came into the league, and he's still a young player because he combines toughness with an ability to provide offense. And if you want to fight, he'll do that. But he's an honest player. I mean, he's a good, solid, tough, honest player, and I love that about him. And with Voracek, he is just he's found a way to come into his own, is what he's done, and certainly with the help of Claude Giroux, who I think makes everybody better. And Voracek is I think everyone always knew that he had talent, and with Columbus they had to give up something in order to get Jeff Carter at the time, and so Voracek is it's a team that's got very good offense, and we can't forget about Braden Shen. As well. Here's a player that had a total of 18 points all of last season. He's at 19 right now. And so I look at the Flyers as a team that's a really good offensive team up front. They've had some injuries on defense. I think they need to try and shore that up. If they can get Mazzaros back, that will help them. And if Paul Holmgren can find a way to get another defenseman, that would help them tremendously. But obviously Pronger is the key missing part back there. But it's tough to get defensemen in this league. Everybody's looking for them.
Shifting gears here real quick, and I only have a minute left with you, Joe. The Blackhawks, they're the best story so far in the start of this hockey season. They're undefeated in the regular season play. They've had a few overtime losses, but that doesn't count against them. They have a few easy games coming up. When's the earliest you could see them losing again? Because this team, are they that good, you believe?
Yeah, they are. They are for sure. And
it's scary.
Something special happens when you get on a roll like they are right now. And again, Philadelphia fans know that when they saw that team have that big undefeated streak under Pat Quinn. And so this is a team that they've been able to stay healthy, which has been a key. And the other, I think, even more importantly, is that it was a team that had question marks in goal prior to this season. Because Crawford, who was still young, they just weren't sure because he had an iffy season last year. And so he's come back and really played well. He's been excellent in goal. And so that's been the key. Their goaltenders have done well. and they've been able to stay healthy, and nobody questions the amount of talent they have both up front and on defense. So, and Joe Quenneville is about as good a coach as there is in the league. So you add all those things together, and it might take a fluke goal or something against them to lose. So I don't think there are any easy games, and I think that's probably what they have to guard against, thinking that it's going against be easy against someone. But they sure are a darn good team.
Joe, I really appreciate the time. Thanks a million, and let's talk to you again real soon. It was good seeing you earlier in the season when the Rangers played the Flyers over there in Philadelphia. Thanks so much, my friend.
Okay, Zach, thanks so much. Always good to be with you.
Joe Micheletti right there, Philly's #1 college radio station, WHIP. We got to take a quick break, and when we get back, Mark Zumoff, the voice of the Sixers, will come on and talk to us. Andrew Bynum, when will he return from injury? And Doug Collins, that rant was epic. Back after this.